What's going on, guys? Sunny, aka The Random Recorder here. 1 full year ago, a YouTuber by the name of Nando V Movies began an initiative known as the One Marvelous Scene movement. The idea was that YouTubers were supposed to make video essays breaking down one scene from the Marvel Cinematic Universe to celebrate the release of Avengers Endgame. Well, ladies and gentlemen, in true Random Recorders fashion, we're 1 year late on the trend. We were actually going to do a video last year, but we totally chickened out of it. So, to celebrate the anniversary of the release of Avengers Endgame, April 26th, I decided to record and edit this video. With all that out of the way, let's get to my marvelous scene. Tony Stark's talk with his father in Avengers Endgame. Oh, shoot, sorry. Spoilers for Avengers Endgame, by the way. Sorry about that. Let's get right into it. My absolute favorite part of this scene is actually how integral it is to Tony's development across Avengers Endgame. Here, you can tell that he's tried to move on from the events of the snap. He outwardly tells Cap that he's got his second chance to live his life, and he's got a second chance to have a child in the form of Morgan Stark after Peter Parker's death. He hasn't worked all the way through it, though, and the hero itch definitely still comes to him. He knows that he can help, and so, well, he decides to. But it doesn't feel like he's ready to die. It doesn't feel like the same Tony Stark, or at least it never came off to me like that. He's only doing this because he feels like it's possible, or worth doing. In fact, that's kind of shown when you take a look at one of my favorite quotes from Iron Man 1, stated by Tony himself.
Jarvis, sometimes you gotta run before you can walk.
But now, you can tell that he's got a really different attitude here.
We got really lucky.
Yeah, I know.
A lot of people didn't.
No, I can't help everybody.
It sort of seems like you can.
Not if I stop.
And I think it's clear that he's changed as a person. He wants to save people, but he's not willing to risk it all for the chance that the time travel might work. He's regressed as a person and as a hero. I think over the course of the film, you can actually see him change and become more of that person that he was. And moments before him and Steve actually go to 1970, he finally, albeit somewhat reluctantly, accepts that what he's about to do could potentially be the end of him if he does not find Pym particles. But this conversation, the one with his father, genuinely impacts him and changes him the most. I think it's fairly clear that Tony almost sees himself in Howard, especially with this line.
Let's just say that the greater good has rarely outweighed my own self-interest.
This is literally exactly how Tony is in the first portion of this film. He knows that there's a possibility that they can save everyone, but immediately shuts it down because now, well, he has a family and a nice life. On top of that, Tony just so happens to visit right around the time that he's born, and sees even more of himself in his father, in that Howard, despite how Tony sees him, was just as worried about raising a child as Tony was with raising Morgan. And I think this causes a huge shift in his character. He stops viewing his dad as this weirdly larger-than-life character who hated him and didn't want to get involved in his life, and realizes that, in truth, his father is just like him. And when he says this line,
I tell you, that kid's not even here yet, and there's nothing I wouldn't do for him.
I think that's when it all clicks for Tony. His father loved him more than he could possibly have realized before, and was willing to risk it all for him. And Tony realizes now that he has to do the same to save his friends and family. And you know what? There's a great line in this movie that shows exactly that. This one.
Where are the stones? Somewhere under all this. All I know is he doesn't have them. So we keep it that way.
You know it's a trap, right?
Yeah, I don't much care.
With this line, yeah, you can tell. Tony Stark is back, and that wouldn't have been possible without his conversation with his father. That, to me at least, is why this is one marvelous scene.